Hello, welcome to Academic English Week 2, Day 2. Today we're going to talk about vowels. So, on the handout on page 64, I'm just going to talk about vowels a little bit and then come back to kind of vowels and consonants and some of the problematic sentences we saw before on the handout, and then we'll talk about some other aspects of English rhythm and stress. So on page 64, I just want to point out a few things about vowels that maybe you were not taught. In English, we have this distinction between long and short vowels in a way that Korean doesn't. So for example, the word ki in English, it's an E, it's longer, it's a bit longer than the ki in Korean, ki. Ki in English, it's longer because we have to keep this distinction, this difference between long and short vowels. It makes a difference. So the long vowels are longer in English. Ki or flute, you hold them a bit longer in English, and it's important. Because if you don't, two words might be confused. And really can be a problem if you're asking for a sheet of paper, sheet, long vowel. If you make it short, people might misunderstand you and be surprised. Or if you say I'm going to the beach, okay, it's important because if you don't make it long enough, it might be misunderstood as a bad word, a word that's bad and kind of sexist. Now, some vowels are long just because they're long, but some vowels are long because they're glided. O is a glide vowel. It has a sort of glide on it. It's not just O, like the Korean O, but it's kind of an O, U, O, O. And it's really important, like for O, that you make it long. It makes a difference if you're saying bought or boat. I bought a boat. If you say I bought a bot, like what, you bought a robot? I bought a boat. Maybe a toy boat for my kid. Boat. A is important, is A-E. There's a reason why bacon is written in Korean as E. Bacon, bacon. It's an important word, bacon. It's not but A, bacon. And of course we have some double vowels too. And actually these glide vowels like O, they're kind of like double vowels. A double vowel is like the oi in boy, and the I, in right, and the ow in cow. Well, these long glide vowels are pretty much like those double vowels. O, U, O. A, E, A, like bacon. Okay. Then we have regular vowels that are kind of not long. They're kind of regular or short a bit. There's the A or O as in hot. So there are words where maybe in British it'll be an O, and in American English an A, hot. For example, cross. So next you have the sound, like in luck, and it's very similar to the in Korean, the sound. And in dictionaries and books, linguists use this symbol. It kind of looks like a satgat hat. So I just call it the satgat symbol, luck. And it's very much like the Korean. In British, maybe the lips are more rounded, like the Korean hut. Hut. In American English, your lips are a bit less rounded, hut. And it's very similar. Now, next we have this symbol. The name for that letter or symbol is schwa, because it's a Hebrew word from the Hebrew language. It's a common vowel sound in Hebrew, so we just call it the schwa. It's very similar, almost the same as the sound, like in luck, but it's extra short. The luck, the luck, about, and also the and like the and butter. Okay, it's just extra short and extra light. In fact, it's so short you may not be used to hearing it, and you may miss it when we say a boat. I bought a boat. A boat. It's about. It was the boat. A boat. The boat was about $500. Okay, something like that. A boat. It's very short, so it's extra short, and it makes so words like a and the, we don't usually say a, the, it's usually the. a boat, the boat. And butter. These vowels in the vowel length can be important, for example, in certain words. Notice, for example, nation, national. Notice nation, a, national. So this is kind of a weird stress pattern that English got from Latin. So these are words from Latin, the Latin language. Nation, national. When you add more endings to make new words, the vowels inside can change, and also the stress can move over sometimes, like nationality, nationality. Now the main stress is in that a, nationality. So then the first syllable, the nationality. So you've got a second level stress and then a main level stress, nationality, nationality. So English is a certain rhythm from these different levels and types of stress, and it's important in order for people to understand you. If you mispronounce the stress, people might misunderstand you. Another good example, okay, discrete discretion, code, codify. Code, that's an O, long O, code, codify, codify. Mode, modify. You have a Latin pattern where the stress moves over sometimes. It's complicated, you don't need to understand it, but just know that mode is long O, mode, but it becomes short in modify, modify, mode, modify. It's not important that you really understand the details of how it works. It's really, really complicated, and one more thing I should say about like the bit-beat distinction, the bit-beat vowel, E, long vowel, E, and your tongue is kind of, it's like the Korean E, but your tongue, it's longer in English, beat, and in bit, it's shorter, but your tongue is more relaxed. Your tongue is a muscle, so it's relaxed, and so it's actually in a different position. Pretend you're at the dentist, you get the pinch out, but you can't really say very carefully, but your tongue muscle is relaxed, bit, beat, bit. And that's important. So it's shorter in bit, not only because it's just shorter, but the tongue muscle is relaxed, and it's actually a completely different vowel sound. They're completely different vowel sounds. And that's an important one because both are really common in English, and you get a lot of words where it's different. Beat, bit, heat, hit, and so on. Maybe a less common distinction is between the oo and the oo like in Luke, and the like in look. So if you're, I'm a father, so I might say to my son, look, I am your father. If you're Darth Vader, you can say, Luke, I am your father. So it makes a difference. Although the beat distinction is really much more common and more important in English. We don't have as many sounds in English. Okay, now that we've talked about vowels and consonants, I want to move on to talking about stress and rhythm, which involves an interplay, kind of a mix of vowel and consonant stuff, along with your intonation and voice and rhythm. And it's quite different in English than in Korean. And so a lot of Asian students have difficulties with English rhythm. So I want to look at a little dialogue on page 69, but first I need to go to a classroom so I can use a whiteboard. It worked. All right, here we are in the nice classroom. Okay, we are going to talk about stress and rhythm. And so first, I would like you to look at page 69, and there's a little dialogue, and I want you to role play it or act it out with somebody. One person reads the part of the waiter or waitress, the other person reads the part of the customer. So I want you to read this and actually read it aloud and try to see what kinds of problems the customer is having. All right, so the first expression that the customer had trouble with was soup or salad. How do you distinguish these three in English? And why did the customer have difficulty? First of all, we don't always speak robotically. We don't usually say soup or salad like a robot or an AI unit. When possible in English, we like to link words together, especially a minor word, and especially when a word begins with a vowel. It's just easier to pronounce everything if we link things together. This is called linking, and it's really common in English. You don't have to do linking as much as a native speaker does, but some linking will help, especially with minor words like of, and for, and or, and things like that. You will hear it all the time. So even if you don't use linking as much in your English, it will help to use some, but you should know about linking because whenever you listen to native English speakers, songs, videos, TV shows, movies, whatever, we use this all the time. It is very common in spoken English, and so you have to know about it, even if you don't always speak with linking yourself. But there are also stress differences because how would we distinguish super salad and a super salad? That was a great salad. It was a super salad. And maybe some restaurants might have a special item on their menu, a super salad. How do we distinguish these? There are slight distinctions in our intonation. English uses stress, the 강세, and it's really important in English for word meaning and clarity. So, nouns, important words like nouns, adjectives, verbs, for example, have more stress than minor words like or, the, and. Those minor words are often very light and don't have a stress at all. Some two-syllable minor words like although might have a slight or minor stress, but it's your what we call content words, your main words like nouns and verbs and adjectives that really carry the main stress in English. So every noun, for example, has a main stress, and that's important. How do we produce stress? How do we produce it? There are three things involved in English stress. One, of course, is the volume. You've probably noticed stressed syllables, 음절, syllables have more volume. Soup or salad, the or is very light. A super salad, the is very, very light. Also the length or duration. Stressed syllables are longer. A soup, a salad. Compare salad. This is really short, and this is really long. This is an sound right here. Salad. And this has stress. Now, we can give every noun n equals stress in English. And if it's, so I could say we have soup or salad, especially if it's a choice question or choice response. Do you have soup or salad? We have soup or salad. So in a choice, like A or B, we can give each item more stress. And that's one common way of pronouncing this. Or the last word, the last maybe noun or verb or adjective, the last important word at the end of a sentence, can get even more stress. You can kind of double the stress. We have soup or salad. Both are okay. In this case, because it's a choice, I would tend to say I would tend to give it equal stress. We have soup or salad. That's what a waiter or waitress would normally say. If this is an adjective or plus a noun, so kind of a normal noun phrase, adjective, noun, of course the adjective has stress, but the noun has more stress than the adjective. So in English, the noun has a little more stress than the adjective before it, a super salad. So super has a stress, and this is unstressed. Unstressed, we have a super salad. So that's stressed, but the noun has even more stress because the noun is more important. Now, in this case, this is what we call a compound noun. And that's when you put two nouns together and you make a new noun, a complex noun. It doesn't matter if they are written together or apart. The stress pattern is similar. Usually the first part of a compound has more stress. It's a super salad. So if it's a special menu item, it's a super salad. Likewise, compound noun. Compound noun is a compound noun. So compound noun. Some more examples. So when I was young in the States, my family and I lived in a white house. Like that, a white house. I will never live in the White House. I wish I did. I think I could do a much better job than the guy who is there now. But anyway, White House is a special noun. It's a compound. Likewise, Chungwade in English is called the blue house. So in some countries they have very colorful houses and they paint them very bright colors, like Nepal and India. So you could live in a blue house, and the president of Korea lives in the blue house. Another example is greenhouse. Maybe if you're in Nepal, you might live in a greenhouse. But a greenhouse, if you write them together, a greenhouse, it would be funny if you live in a greenhouse, because that's kind of a special structure where you grow things like strawberries. Well, you must really love your strawberries if you live in a greenhouse. A greenhouse is a special place for growing plants, and a greenhouse would be a colorful green-colored house. All right, what was the next problem with the customer? Pie and apples. So again, we have linking here, and minor words often, again, get reduced. We don't say or, we say super salad. It's kind of an Pie and apples. And is a minor word, and it often reduces. It's often just pronounced kind of an n. For example, we say rock and roll. Nobody says rock and roll. It's rock and roll. Rock and roll, man. So likewise, pineapples. And you might hear the D because it's linking to the A in apples, pie and apples. So we link words. When a word begins with a vowel, it often links with the word before it. You might also link words together if there's a similar consonant, like we all live, we all live, we all live, we all. It's the vowel linking, and we all live. Same consonant linking, we all live. Famous song, we all live in a yellow submarine. So that's linking. So pie and apples. So again, there's going to be a stress difference. Pineapples has compound stress here. And I don't know why English calls those things pineapples. It's kind of a strange term, because in most other languages, if you've learned any European languages or other languages in the world, they're called ananas. For some reason, the British made up this strange term pineapple. Anyway, so pineapples. And that's the second level stress. But here, you can say we have pie and apples. Equal stress on both words. Or you could just say we have pie and apples. You could have more stress on the apples. And that's kind of a sentence level stress. But anyway. So we have problems with the stress in intonation and with the word linking. These are common things in English. These are things that give us the rhythm. So a few more notes about stress. Okay, so first of all, English stress mainly falls more on content words. So content words are important. They're the important meaning words of a sentence. Nouns, main verbs. So main verbs are main verbs like go, run, study, exercise, and things like that. Minor words get little or no stress. They might get a minor little stress, or they get no stress. So those minor words are function words. These are things like prepositions, linking verbs, modal verbs, conjunctions like because and since, and things like this, that, these, those, the, We don't usually say a, we say We don't usually say the, we say the. So English rhythm consists of the stress patterns. We have a noun phrase stress pattern, like a super salad, where nouns have more stress. We have compound patterns, like pineapples. One thing that's not in here, abbreviations are kind of a special thing. So with compound nouns, most often the main stress is on the first part. And that's true about 90%, 95% of the time. Now, our abbreviations are different. FBI, NSA, WHO, the World Health Organization. The main stress on abbreviations is usually the last part, usually the last letter, or OECD, OECD. So abbreviations are interesting. They are kind of the opposite of regular compound nouns. Some other things that are important for English rhythm. You have probably noticed that the English stress system is complicated, and it affects the pronunciation of the vowels, and it's especially complicated with longer academic words. English stress is really complicated. It's very stressful, right? Yes. You'll see a lot of academic words where the stress is maybe further back in the word, like syllable, consonant. And you probably notice cases where the stress moves when you add endings, suffixes to make new words. Nation, national, and the vowel changes. The stress stays here, but the vowel changes. And that's really strange. And then nationality, finally the main stress moves over here. You have kind of a second level minor stress here, but nationality. And this is the Latin stress pattern we got from the Latin language. Most academic words come from Latin, some from Greek. They usually follow a Latin stress pattern. If you kind of count from the end of the word, let's say this is -1, -2, -1, -2, -3, okay, -1, -2, -3, -1, 2, 3, -3 here. So with these academic words, most often, not always, but maybe 80 to 90% of the time, the main stress is going to be on the second or third syllable unjal from the end, but not always, usually. How this happens, the pronunciation of the vowel, when the stress moves, when you add endings to make new words, it's awfully complicated. You don't need to worry about it. Don't try. You could spend a lifetime studying linguistics and trying to pull your hair out and understand it. Don't worry. What matters is, usually with academic words, main stress, usually second or third from the end. What's more important, whether it's a long word or it's a short word, subject. Okay, subject is a noun, subject is a verb. Object, noun, object, verb. Makes a difference there. What's more important is that you pronounce the stress clearly so that people can understand you, because it could cause confusion. Here's an example. One time I was asking a friend, a Korean friend, who's going to lead our meeting tomorrow? And she said, she's trying to say Willie, which is a guy's name, short for William, and she was pronouncing each syllable equally. So it sounded like Willie. And I thought she was echoing the question back to me, will lead? But she meant to say Willie, which should have a clear stress on the first syllable, and the second syllable is light, Willie. And that's different from Willie, which might sound will lead, Willie. It makes a difference. English stress makes a difference. It can cause confusion if you don't say it right. So it's not important that you know rules. It's more important that you just pronounce it clearly so that people can understand you. Next, I want to go back to page 57 on the handout, and we're going to go through these. So let me just point out first the different rhythm problems that Koreans, Japanese, and speakers from actually a number of other Asian languages we'll tend to have with English because of the complex rhythm of English. There's the stress patterns. In these cases, we have a lot of compound word expressions, as well as adjective-noun combinations, and that makes a difference. We have we have long vowels, and that makes a difference between tote or taught, for example. We might have some reductions here, some minor words that get reduced, and you need to make the content words, the important words, clear, and the minor words are maybe a bit, they're still clear, but they're just kind of quicker and softer than the content words. Let me erase the board. So take a moment to review these sentences on page 57. That was the first page, the first real page of the outline of the handout that I provided you. So again, go through these sentences, pause the video, take a minute, go through the sentences, and see now if you can see the problems that East Asian speakers might have when saying these sentences. Some of these might be more typical of older people, by the way. With the younger generation like you all, I notice fewer of these problems. I guess that the teaching of pronunciation has improved, but there are still problems that a lot of students like you might have. So pause the video and look through these. Try to guess where the problems are. Okay, we're back. Number one, I need notebooks and pens. Notebooks has a couple of potential little problems. Compound, main stress on the first part, notebook. It's a long vowel. It's the O, not notebook. Not, that wouldn't really make sense. Notebook, notebook, notebook. The main part has more stress and it's a long vowel. O, not O, but O. That's important. Another little thing here. You have a T sound, the E is silent, followed by another. So the T is one of those stop sounds. You stop the airflow with your tongue and your gum bridge. And the B is also a stop sound. Notebook. When you have inside a word, for example, or at the very end of a word, one of these stop sounds, we often don't release the air if it's at the end of the word. So I'm going to put that symbol that indicates no release of air. You don't say notebook, it's notebook. Your breath stops there. And also here, because the T is followed by another stop sound. So if you've got a stop sound in the middle of the word and it's immediately followed by another stop sound like a B or a K or G, or a friction sound like a F or the or a Z or a S, it's often not released. You don't say note-book, but notebook. Notice they stop the airflow usually. Unless I'm angry and I say notebook. No, notebook. Notebook. And that's going to be true for tote bag. It doesn't matter if it's written together or separately. Tote bag is one of these things. It doesn't matter how it's spelled. It's going to be unreleased. Tote bag. Tote bag. Another example, belt fish. It's followed by a friction sound. It's one of those friction sounds. Belt fish. Not fishy, but fish. Again, we end the syllable of the word here. So belt fish, not belt, belt fish. Kaoqi. So again, we talked about this last time. In English words in a sh, zh, ja, cha, or z, we don't add that. We don't add that extra or e like in Korean, like dachi, or fishy, or something like that. And again, that's because in Korean, certain sounds cannot be in patim or final position, but in English, they are. And we need to hold the end of the word there. So, I need some notebooks and pens. So pens is another one. The N voiced. So the S becomes voiced. Also, pens, pens. Because it's different from Pence, who, that's the last name. So Trump's vice president is Mike Pence. He's not as crazy, but he would be kind of awful too. Anyway, pens, Pence. I don't want Pence. I don't like the guy. I want pens. Number 2, do you have any goat cheese? Cheese, z, ends in z. Goat. Okay, no release of the t. Goat, long vowel. O, goat. Goat cheese. 3, can I buy some Dutch beer? Not Dutchie, but Dutch beer. So remember these sounds, sh, ch, j, and so on. Your tongue is curled up like this, Dutch, Dutch. Not Dutchie, like in Korean, but Dutch. Can I buy some Dutch beer and some French wine? Number 4, do you have any belt fish? Number 5, do you have any new jazz? Jazz, not jazz, but jazz CDs. Abbreviation CDs. So CDs. Abbreviation, more stress on the last part of an abbreviation. And D, E is a voice sound. It actually, you say D, it ends in a vowel E, and so the S becomes voiced into a Z. CDs. CDs. I need some size C batteries. C, not she. So again, in Korean, the S becomes a sh before an E, she, but not in English. Size C, not she, but C batteries. Size C batteries. I need a tote bag. Talked about that. Tote bag. Long vowel. Stress on the first part. Do you have any orange yogurt? So orange yogurt. Not orangey, but orange. Orange ends there. Orange yogurt. Not yogurt, but yogurt. I need a cable. A, long vowel. Cable for my phone. Phone, long vowel. Cable for my phone. Do you have frozen hash browns? Oh, I miss hash browns. It's good. Frozen homemade hash browns. Not the crap you might buy at McDonald's, but real homemade hash browns. Anyway, frozen. Oh, frozen hash browns. Especially with this, don't put that E at the end like older Koreans might do. Hashi. Don't say hashi, because that might sound like hashish, which is an illegal drug. It's kind of like marijuana, but it's more concentrated and stronger. Hashish. You don't want to be misunderstood there. Hash browns. Do you have any Buzz Lightyear toys? Buzz. So no jit. Buzz Lightyear toys. By the way, family names or last names tend to get more stress than the first or personal names. Buzz Lightyear. Barack Obama. God, I miss you. Barack Obama. Or if it's family name first, Pan Ki-moon. Pan Ki-moon. The family name gets more stress. Pan Ki-moon. Barack Obama. Can I download torrents? So here's an interesting one. In Korean, you tend to blend the N and L together and say download, download. You don't hear the N, you hear the O, download. But not in English. Same for upload. You might, the P and the L in Korean might kind of blend together, upload. And the L changes. We don't do that in English. At least the L doesn't change like that in English. There are other cases of what we call blending in English. Let me erase the board. There are other cases of blending, what we call blending, where consonant sounds blend together. Don't you becomes don't you. Can't you becomes can't you. And this is common in English with minor function words, like helping verbs, modal verbs, and pronouns. Can't you, don't you. It happens less often with content words, and it involves maybe these kinds of consonants, but not L, usually. So download, the N has to be clear. Download, upload. So this is maybe not released. Stop sound not released there. Upload. So you don't blend them. Upload. English speakers won't understand you if you say download, upload. It's download, upload. I just opened a checking account at Citibank. Don't say Citibank. It may not be a good bank, I know, but it's Citibank. You don't want people to misunderstand you. City, not she, not city, but Citibank. Citibank. That's really important. And 14, I think she should sit. I think she should sit. I think she should sit. Don't say shit. Don't say this. The S stays S, even before I or E in English. Sit. Don't say the other word. People will misunderstand you. Okay. Let me go back to my office and do a little wrap-up. Okay, there are also some other sentences and paragraphs and stuff in this handout that you can practice with, and I suggest you go through these on your own. There are some practice sentences. There's even some bad poetry that I've written to practice the A sound. So we have talked about consonants, particularly the problem consonants. Those are in the middle of the mouth, like the sh, j, ch, zh. We've talked about vowels, and especially vowel length. Some vowels need to be clearly long, like the O in boat and the A in bacon. We've talked about stress, and it's most important to pronounce it clearly. You don't have to know the complex stress rules, but you have to pronounce stress clearly. That is, stress syllables are longer and louder, and I should also mention they have a clear intonation change. The intonation goes up and down, or at least up or down, or usually up and down, like stress duration. Stress is more clear on content words, and it's lighter on function words, minor words. So content words, the important words of sentences, nouns, verbs, adjectives, maybe adverbs, have clear stress patterns. Those need to be pronounced clearly. There's also compound and abbreviation stress patterns, which are a bit complicated. We talked a little bit about linking, which you at least need to be able to hear in words and sentences when you listen to native English speakers. The most common is this vowel linking, where a word beginning with a vowel will link with the word before it, like pie and apples. And by the way, there's also consonant-consonant linking when you have two similar consonants across words, like we all live in a yellow submarine, and that's the all live. That's a famous song. All live is a consonant-consonant linking of similar consonant sounds. There's reduction of words, which you have to know in order to understand English. It's so common in spoken English. A lot of common function words get reduced. Often, like and becomes n, or is for becomes fur, and so on. As well as in a lot of common function words, can't you, and often consonant blending comes into play also. Can't you, can't you, don't you, don't you. And we also talked a bit about how some, particularly stop consonants, they don't have the release of air at the end of words or in the middle of words before another consonant, and that's a common thing. So these are some things to pay attention to in order to make your English more comprehensible. We don't expect you to improve drastically in one semester, but if English is important in your future, these are some things you will need to practice on by listening, for example, to media materials, songs, and videos, and listening for these things, and then practicing on your own. Practice following along to your favorite songs or parts of your favorite videos, your favorite movies or TV shows, just small parts of them, and kind of do what we call shadowing, that is repeating after what you hear. Those can be helpful exercises for practicing pronunciation, as well as speaking in class. And once we get back to live classes, you will need to speak and participate actively in class and in group discussions. And that's something we can do hopefully in April if things work out. Next time we'll start talking about a little bit about writing and your next assignment. All right, have a good weekend and see you later.